Shabbat Shalom, my friends. Well, we feel the heat of summer now. We're beginning to enjoy vacations instead of the staycations that mark the COVID era. Even as college graduates scramble to get a well-deserved break before signing on to the next phase of their lives, summer camps are happily filling up with post-COVID opportunities for the kids. I can personally testify from my own apartment window that the beaches are filling up, sailboats dot the horizon, and the palest of the pale are costumed in the latest swimwear, often disregarding damage to unprotected skin. We Jews sense the growing distance from May 26th and the festival of Shavuot because of the arrival just now of the first of those jarring announcements of how to be properly aligned to get the seats that we desire for Rosh Hashanah. Can it be? Shavuot? Yeah, over. Rosh Hashanah? Can it be? Yes, it can. As a summer exercise, we Jews study a section of Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our founders, each week and revisit some of Judaism's most powerful aphorisms. Aphorisms such as Hillel, right? If I am only for myself, then what am I? We study Pirkei Avot in the summer. And then two independent but profoundly intertwined events occur. First, we are asked to read this week's Sedra, known as Pinchas, Numbers 24, verse 10 and following. So, read Pinchas, that's one of the first obligations. The second is, we find ourselves in a strange calendar feature known as Bein HaMetzarim, in a narrow place. A calendar feature that actually began this year on July 6th and ends 3 weeks later, coming quickly, July 27th. Two independent but profoundly and painfully intertwined events. Now, take them one at a time. Do you remember Pinchas? Pinchas from last year? He was a member of the priestly hierarchy, a descendant of Aaron and his family. Pinchas was a man of deep, passionate principles during a time when the Israelites were weakening in their attachment to God. So what was going on there in the Sinai desert? Idolatry was going on, with the Israelites offering sacrifices, as the prophets would say, to gods that are no gods. And the shattering of families was going on. The shattering of a structure of families that had led Balaam not that long ago to declare, Matovu ohalecha Yaakov, Mishkanotecha Yisrael, how goodly are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling places, O Israel, your families are terrific. Now they're falling apart. As he witnessed all of this, one could only imagine the emotions that the passionate Pinchas felt. Rage, betrayal, fear, frustration. What has happened to my people? And how can they be stopped from plunging into an abyss of disfavor in the eyes of God? And now there came a breaking point when an Israelite chieftain brought a Midianite woman into a public space in the camp and began having sexual relations with her. Not good. Unable to countenance such behavior, Pinchas picks up his spear and stabs the man and the woman to death. Strangely, interestingly, God favors Pinchas's actions and rewards him in a most extraordinary fashion. Okay, so that's the story of Pinchas we're reading this week's Sedra. And the second seemingly independent event is that we are now Bein HaMetzarim, in a narrow place, a period of time that culminates with the arrival of Tisha B'Av, the 9th day of the month of Av. For Jews involved in the flow of our sacred calendar, this is a period of intense grieving and of sorrow, commemorating the destruction of the Second Temple by Rome in the year 70 CE, and the beginning of what would become a 2,000-year-long exile from our home, an exile that only ended with the birth of Israel in 1948. During Bein HaMetzarim, traditional Jews will not conduct weddings, will not play or listen to music, will not recite the Shechianu prayer, will not shave or have haircuts. We're supposed to enter into now a growing state of spiritual preparation leading up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And we almost always read our Sedra, Pinchas, during Bein HaMetzarim. So, how does a non-judicial act of taking a human life connect with the destruction of the Second Temple? Pinchas was not just passionate. He was a zealot. Went to Google. Google sets things out pretty clearly. A zealot is an uncompromising fanatic, an extremist, a radical, a militant, a fiend, a maniac, or a nut. That's in Google, or a nut. A zealot is not only someone who holds certain values, principles, ideas very tightly, but they are determined to get others to share those same values. This is mine, and it must be yours. The word zealous, by the way, also has etymological links to the word jealousy. It's another story for another time. And with all that, God honored Pinchas for his zealotry. In the lead up to the 9th of Av, we therefore read of a murdering zealot who was eternally rewarded by God. And during the same period, explore the causation for the destruction of the Second Temple. The renowned Jewish historian Josephus, who lived during the period of the destruction, left no uncertainty as to how he felt. There was a Jewish sect at that time known as the Zealots. They took bloody control of Jerusalem during the revolt against Rome, despising and slaughtering any Jews who sought peace with Rome. And in Josephus's view, that fanatical view led directly to the destruction of the temple. The Zealots then fled Jerusalem after the temple's fall and set up a citadel on, you're right, Masada. Rather than be captured by Rome, most of the Zealots on Masada committed mass suicide. There were a few who escaped to Egypt. They were rounded up, tortured, and executed. So, confronted by a Torah text that gives high honor to Pinchas, the rabbis for 20 centuries have had to twist and turn to find the good in what Pinchas did. It's in the Torah, has to be good. That is not an easy task. For example, we have midrashim, some really fun ones, that see Moses praying to God, don't let Pinchas succeed me in the leadership of our people. One text has Moses actually saying to God, appoint over them a leader who will tolerate each person according to their own individual character. That's great. Wasn't Pinchas. Living in the post-destruction period, the rabbis fully understood where zealotry can lead. they speak often to the moral failings of the Jews, that led to Jerusalem's fall, the temple's destruction. Some even blame the example of Pinchas for the destruction of the Second Temple many hundreds of years later. Rabbi Shai Held warns us that zealotry, like cancer, can metastasize. Those of us committed to a life of values must therefore walk a narrow line, passionately embracing and pursuing our goals, while refusing to be sucked into mindless extremism of action and of words. That is certainly true during these days of massive demonstrations in Israel. Some demonstrators crossed the line, as well as during the struggle to discover a coherent American democracy before it can be lost forever. So there was Pinchas in his day, there were the zealots in their day, and now the only question that remains is, how will we live and further our values in our day? Shabbat Shalom. During these days of Ben HaMitzarim. See you next week.